Welcome to my very first video of the Mantra Brokerage Review Series, where I talk about and review my experience with various online business brokers. This one is about FEI International, a very well-known brokerage and one of the oldest ones in the space. In this video, I'm going to go in depth in regards to what it's like working with them as a buyer. If you're a seller or potential seller looking to better understand the process about what it's like to work with FEI, I have a dedicated video for you that is separate from this one. Again, this video is just for those looking to potentially buy a business with FEI International. I hope you enjoy. What we're covering today: who is FEI International, what listings do they have available, and how to navigate some of the listing pages, what kind of pricing and multiples do you expect, what is it like when you actually buy a site, how does that work, do they help you with the migration process, overall, the pros and cons of FEI International and buying with them, and then finally, my recommendation. Are they worth using? If so, is it good for everyone, or are they only good for specific people? So before we dive in, I want to go a little bit more about me. I'm an entrepreneur in SEO of 7 years, and I specialize in acquiring and settling digital assets, both for myself and for clients who I work with as a broker. If you want to learn a little bit more about me, I have another dedicated video that goes into way more specifics. So about FEI International, which I will also call or refer to as FEI, it was founded in 2010 by Thomas Small. I actually reached out to him to see if I could get a little more color as to how or why the business was started, but he did not reach out, or he did not respond back. They pretty much deal with all types of online businesses. They specialize in profitable SaaS businesses. I got that straight from the horse's mouth, Thomas, 2 years ago when I saw him in person. Another thing that they specialize in is they are great at creating real connections, which the other online brokers don't do as well. And I don't think they come close. You know, FEI International, they will contact you for in-person events. They will follow up with emails, none of which the other brokers do nearly as well, if at all. So they have team members in the UK and US. I think they may have some in other areas. I've heard Asia, but I couldn't confirm that when I was creating the slide. They've won a number of awards, including the Inc. 5000, fastest growing companies, etc. So here's just a list of some of the competitors. I went from most similar to less similar to least similar. I got to remove that bullet point, whatever. Probably they are by far the most similar to Quiet Light Brokerage. They have very similar approach in that you have a dedicated broker who talks to you. They both have prospectuses, etc. So a lot of what I talk about here on the buyer side is going to apply to Quiet Light Brokerage. The other ones are fairly similar in the way that they operate. You deal and you talk to specifically brokers. The less similar ones, these are either marketplaces. These ones, they are less similar, more like you're dealing with marketplaces, and you might not be dealing with a particular broker. Instead, you might be dealing with the seller themselves or an agent of the company. And then least similar, these tend to, they're brokerages or listings that sell websites, but for various reasons, they are very different from FEI. So listings, businesses for sale. So here's some listing statistics that I took at the time, September 30th, 2021. This is just goes to show that, they do mostly have SaaS businesses. I was actually surprised by e-commerce businesses. I did not know that they actually dealt with a lot of e-commerce businesses when I first started recording it, even though I've been looking at FEI International for several years. And then third is content businesses. They have a number of other businesses, but for the most part, they tend to have SaaS, content, and apparently e-commerce. This is just what FEI has at this snapshot in time. Anecdotally, I would have said SaaS and content businesses with is what they primarily have. So when you go to their website, feinternational.com, you're on their homepage, you click on Bio website and you'll go to what businesses they have. The businesses are listed very clearly and easily on this listings page. So what's nice is FEI, they do more filtering than other businesses because of the amount of information that they get from the seller and the amount of verification that they get. But you still need to do your due diligence. And so through this listings page where you see here, I just showed 2 listings, but you'll see the business category or business model. So here we say display, advertising / affiliate, which I lumped into as a content site, or like SaaS / recurring subscription, revenue, profit, and asking price. And then finally, a short description. So if you click on one of these listings, you'll actually go to a dedicated listing page or the business page. You'll see a lot of that similar information that we saw in the previous page. You also see some benefits and description. But here, you will notice that one of the things is, if you go back, you see this asterisk. This means that these figures are annualized. So you see here, it says revenues and profit figures are annualized on the last 3-month basis. So that means that these are not actual annual revenues. This is what the site would earn if you annualize the past 3 months. So basically just taking those months and multiplying them by 4. It's not uncommon to do this for businesses, but last 3 months in this case is really short. Usually you want to do it with at least 6 months. In some cases, for smaller content websites, I've noticed that they started to put a deadline as to when they accept offers for the business. So you don't see it here, but I've started to see that spring up on some of the listings recently. So keep that in mind as you look at businesses. Now you can request more information here by inputting some information. And if it's your first time, you're going to get asked to submit an NDA. Once that's taken care of, you usually get the prospectus within 1 to 2 business days. And the prospectus, it has so much information. So you usually get the prospectus within 1 to 2 days, filling out the form if you already have the NDA under file with FEI, or once you sign it. We'll get to what the prospectus is in the next slide. And the thing is, though, generally FEI brokers, I've noticed that they've gotten really slow to respond in the past 6 months. I will ask them pretty basic questions, and sometimes they take 2 or 3 business days, which when you're trying to get a deal done and find out more information about a business, that is a long time. But anyway, onto what the prospectus is. So the prospectus is this write-up or PDF that FEI International does for a business. They take all this data that they get from the seller, they ask the seller a number of questions, and they present it in this PDF. It's really comprehensive. It shows the P&L, traffic data from analytics, growth strategies, Q&A, a ton of different things. Here's an example of some questions that you might see from a P&L. I'll just give you 5 seconds to go through them, or you can pause this video if you want. I'm not going to be reading them all. If you go through the prospectus and you have additional questions, you can talk to the broker and you can request more information. They generally do not give you Google Analytics or Google Search Console permission, which is really helpful in doing due diligence on a website for sale, and something you definitely want to get in most cases when you can. But if you know what you want to look at, then you can just simply request that information from the broker. You could say, hey, I just need like the last 30 days of traffic compared to the previous 30 days. I also need year-on-year traffic, and I need the top 25 pages by traffic according to Google Analytics, for example. From there, you can also schedule a call with the seller, and FEI, they'll have a representative on there to facilitate that call so that you can talk to the seller, have questions. However, you will not be submitting an offer on that call. You do that through email directly to the broker, who handles all negotiations, and then the broker will in turn take your offers to the seller. Sometimes to get certain data or information, you might need to submit a letter of intent or an LOI. It's not legally binding, but that does show to FEI that you are serious, and they are more likely to give you more information and respond quicker. So negotiations and acquisition. So now if you want to submit negotiations or any offers, you submit that to the broker. The broker, or FEI International, will in turn take it to the seller. But they will also give you some guidance as far as, well, there might be some flexibility on the pricing, or really they're looking for a minimum of X. Whether it's negotiations on price or structuring the deal, such as with earnouts or seller financing, the broker will have some idea and will handle that communication directly with the seller. Now, once an offer is accepted, your broker is going to create a new email thread. And from there, the broker gives you an asset purchase agreement to sign. That contains information such as the purchase price, a non-compete clause for the seller, what support is included, and the assets that come with the deal. It's fairly short. I went through my most recent one and it was 11 pages. I have seen some asset purchase agreements that was more than 70 pages. So the 11 pages is nice because it's fairly condensed. It keeps the legalese easy to process. So once the APA, or the asset purchase agreement, is signed, you're good to actually start the deal. And FEI International uses escrow.com, which is an official licensed escrow in the US, to handle the domain. Additionally, the buyers and sellers both fill out a handover document as far as, containing information such as hosting, WordPress information, to really smooth out that transition process. And then I'm not sure if this happens every time, but in the 2 deals that I've done in the past 3 years with FEI International, they do set up an independent Skype channel, so to better discuss migration. And that involves switching over any hosting, affiliate links, account changeovers, such as affiliate accounts, social media accounts, etc. FEI International does take the lead on helping to assist with all of that. So, if it's your first acquisition, your first purchase, FEI International does have a standardized process to make the transition fairly easy, though it does depend on the business about how complicated that transfer might be. Let's talk about the money, or in this case, what kind of fees are associated with FEI International. Let's talk about the money. Specifically, what kind of deals can you get from FEI and what fees are associated with working with them? So the prices of a business, in most cases, in almost all cases, they are based on multiples. I will do a separate video based on multiples, but basically the way a website or digital business, and really any business, is valued is based off of the multiple of the average profit or revenue. In the online world, it's almost entirely on profit. So you might take the last 12 months profit, multiply that by 30 to 40 to 50, and that might be the listing price. What that number is, 30, 40, or 50, depends on a variety of factors, which I will put in the video that I'll be making, and is beyond the scope of this video. But when you check out the websites for sale, you do see the listing price, and that is going to be on a multiple. FEI International usually does it on the basis of years as opposed to months. So they might say, 2.5 years, 3 years, etc. Compared to other brokers, they have pretty standard listing prices for content, SaaS, and e-commerce businesses. If you remember the table that I showed, those are the 3 most popular types of businesses that they sell. And I didn't really look at data for the other types of businesses just because there was so little data. Keep in mind, though, when you're working with them as a buyer, they are incentivized to sell the business for as much as possible. So they do represent the seller. And that's because they get a commission off of the sales price, 15%. So the more the business sells for, the more money they make. So something to keep in mind, the brokers are not really on your side when you are negotiating. Unfortunately, there is a buyer's fee. To my knowledge, they are the only brokerage to charge a buyer's fee. And that fee is 2.5% or $1,000. Whatever is lower is what you will be hit at. So the buyer's fee will be $1,000 or less regardless. However, there are some escrow fees that you have to deal with a $75 domain holding fee as the buyer, as well as a 3.25 to 8.9% fee, depending on the transaction size. And that goes to escrow.com. They take wire transfer, money order, credit card, or PayPal, but you're going to have the smallest fees, closer to that 0.89% with a wire transfer. So definitely something that you want to do. Don't pay with credit card. The points aren't going to make up for the fee difference. So summary and recommendation. What I like about FEI International. From a buyer, they're easy to use and work with. It's easy to look at their listings and what they have for sale. They have a good mix of SaaS and content websites, and e-commerce websites for that matter. Company structure, they have a relatively flat structure, so it's pretty easy to get in touch with the CEO, Thomas. I'll message him on Facebook, I'll tweet at him, I've met him in person a few times. And it's good to know that you can talk to the executives or the head honchos of a company, when you're dealing with, 5-6-figure acquisitions, which for a lot of y'all and myself is a lot of money. Their prospectus provides a lot of information from P&L, which is a profit and loss statement, to seller Q&A, to a lot more. It's one of the best in the business, comparable only to Quiet Light Brokerage, where the level of information or the amount of information that they provide is very comparable. Other brokerages, they will give you some information, but it's not nearly as much or as detailed as the ones that FEI and Quiet Light Brokerage provide. And then also, I love drinking, and they invite me to happy hours whenever they're in the area, so they get some bonus points there. What I don't like about them, they are one of, if not the only brokerage to charge buyers a success fee. Like I said, it's a max of $1,000. So if you're doing a deal, if you're buying a deal that's mid 6 figures, or even if it gets to 6 figures, that's going to be less than a 1%. It's not that bad, but it's still a little annoying. Secondly, they can take a long time to respond, like I mentioned. When you're emailing them to set up dates to meet the sellers, or if you have simple questions, it takes anywhere from 2 to 4 business days very often. Sure, I'm sure they respond quicker than that sometimes, but in most cases, when I work with them, I see that it does take a few business days, which can be pretty annoying. So my recommendation, FEI International, they're a solid, trustworthy team that you can trust to do a good job. I've worked with them several times over the past 3 to 5 years, and they have quality businesses. They do more filtering and more due diligence than other businesses, and simply because they decide to work with not as many, which is awesome. They don't do as many deals as Empire Flippers and not a marketplace like Flippa. They actually have brokers who represent the business and look at them. So because of that, they're a good choice for new and experienced investors. And they are really great for those looking for profitable SaaS businesses of all levels, mid-market e-commerce businesses, and low to mid-market content businesses. So for content businesses, anywhere from probably $20,000 to low-ish mid 6-figure businesses. For content, for e-commerce, probably similar range, but on the ceiling a little higher, probably to low 7 figures. And then profitable SaaS businesses, it's great for anyone looking to buy a business, specifically for profitable SaaS businesses of all levels. Like I said, they are probably the best profitable SaaS business brokerage to work with across all levels, just because of their expertise and history. I say profitable because if I were to sell or acquire a non-profitable SaaS business, I would definitely look at micro acquire. However, additionally, they are good for mid-market e-commerce businesses. So anything from probably low 6 figures to low 7 figures is their sweet spot for e-commerce. And then low to mid-market content businesses, anywhere from low 5 figures. I've seen listings for as low as $20,000 to around high 6 figures, low 7 figures. I've seen plenty of those on FEI's marketplace, and I know they sell as well. I hope you found that this was helpful. This is my experience with FEI International. I've worked with them several times before, and they have a great reputation within the community. If you have any questions about acquiring a website, a digital business, anything SEO related, feel free to reach out to me. I'll put my contact information in the about below. Thanks for checking this out, and happy investing.